Embracing a spirit of academic curiosity, collaboration and credibility, Applied Communication in Contexts Laboratory at Mohammed First University, Oujda, Morocco, endorses a promising academic and epistemic endeavor of a multitude of variegated research interests that revolve around applied communication. Our research program encompasses a wide range of vocations: interpersonal and social communication, political and mass communication, business and organizational communication, public relations, intercultural communication, in addition to translation, education, linguistics, etc. Besides the numerous PhDs and master programs, our lab is interested in engaging global as well as local communities of academia and of practice into more interdisciplinary consultation through our lab's national and international virtual or in-person events and via our specialized journals, Moroccan Journal of Communication Studies and the International Journal of Communication and Translation, as well as proceedings. Now, on the sideline of our e-conference on organizational communication within public, private, and civil institutions, we deem it timely to make a pause for more convivial academic encounters. We deem it also necessary and instrumental to introduce our local audience and research community to the subject of organizational communication, as it is relatively new or not as updated as we wish or think to the latest theoretical as well as operational advances and practices. Today, we are honored to receive our distinguished Professor Dr. Sana QARROUTE. Dr. QARROUTE is a professor at l'École nationale de commerce et de gestion here in Oujda. She is a holder of an MBA from Laval University in Canada, as well as a PhD in management at UMP. Her research interests revolve around human resources management, labor relationships, HR practices, and organizational performance. Our guest is a zealous researcher and educator. She is very active at the local as well as the international academic arenas. She is the author and co-author of several articles and books in the field of management, a member of Ordre des conseillers en ressources humaines agréés in Canada, and recently she is in charge of the ministry MHR MOOC program. Prof. QARROUTE has generously agreed to join us today and have a conversation about organizational communication from a perspective of a human resources expert. Professor QARROUTE, welcome.
I'm pleased to meet you, Ms. Soumya, and thank you for taking time to meet with me today. I was excited when you told about the interview, especially about the subject that is dear to me. HR, it's my passion.
You're welcome, and it's with delight and pleasure, Doctor. Doctor, would you please introduce the audience to the subject of organizational communication? What does it stand for in a simple word?
Well, first of all, we need to understand what organizational communication means exactly. As a matter of fact, organizational communication is defined as the sending and receiving of messages through interrelated individuals within an organization. Organizational communication is highly contextual and culturally dependent. Individuals in organizations transmit messages through face-to-face, writing, and mediated channels. Organizational communication helps us to first accomplish tasks relating to specific roles and responsibilities of sales, services, and production, to acclimate to changes through the individual and organizational creativity and adaptation, complete tasks through the maintenance of policy, procedures, or regulations that support daily and continuous operations, develop the relationship where human messages are directed at people within organization, their attitudes, moral satisfaction, and fulfillments. Finally, Organizational communication helps us to coordinate, plan, and control the operations of the organizations through management.
I see. So here we can speak of a real skill and credential on the basis of which human resources could get recruited, isn't it, Doctor?
For organizations to be successful, they must have competent communicators. Organizational communication study shows that organizations rely on effective communication and efficient communication skills from their members. Organizations seek people who can follow and give instructions, accurately listen, provide useful feedback, get along with coworkers and customers with scarce resources, and uses scientific method and empirical evidence to build its base of knowledge. Leaving communications to professionals can be a strategic move that benefits the business. Sometimes a company's biggest hurdle to effectively communicate with employees is a lack of attention to properly managing the content or distribution of the messages. But who can do the managing? Human resources, which is the organizational function most concerned with employee needs. Many HR and communications professionals contend that communication should be centralized and separate from HR.
Yeah. Now, coming from a managerial background, how do you envisage the interface between economics and human sciences, madam?
Instead of this question, we should ask, is economics a social science? Yes, economics is a social science. This means that economics has two important attributes. Economics studies human activities and constructions in environments with scarce resources, and uses the scientific method and empirical evidence to build its base of knowledge. In fact, economics is a social science that has diverse applications. It assesses the relationship between the consumption and production of goods and services in an environment of finite resources. A focus of the subject is how economic agents behave or interact, both individually, means macroeconomics, and in aggregate, that is macroeconomics.
So the taxonomy you have mentioned made the epistemic interface very salient. Both of economics and human sciences are in fact social sciences. So what is the role of university in promoting their objectives respectively?
Well, since the emergence of entrepreneurial university in the 90s, universities have gradually grown on their new role as promoters of economic growth and social development. The convergence of scientific disciplines, included economics and social sciences, is much needed if the objective is to drive global development that delivers social inclusion and economic prosperity.
Now, trying to narrow the scope a little bit down, in what way, Professor QARROUTE, could we think of an academic collaboration between economics and communication studies in particular? What are your needs as human resources experts in terms of communicative competencies that you see as a priority for investigation? What is urgent or could be more instrumental for the time being?
Actually, I can enumerate several issues like conflict, negotiation, cross-cultural communication, personal development as part of professional development of human resources. There are plenty of communicative aspects in organizations that are worth investigating. This fact calls forth collaboration between faculties and institutes of communication and those of economics.
At the end, Doctor, what are your recommendations for curriculum design, being a professor at one of Morocco's most prestigious business schools and given your experience abroad?
An effective curriculum has to effectively prepare students. The curriculum must be current, responsive, and innovative. It must be delivered in an appropriate format and through an effective channel. Above all, students need to gain appropriate knowledge and skills as they progress through and complete the program. Organizational communication is a pedagogical must. It should be part of the syllabus in all faculties and schools of business and management. It is different from simple language proficiency and is coextensive with all that is management and entrepreneurship. It is a competence that should definitely be part of human resources resumes.
Dr. Sana QARROUTE, thank you for the valuable time you have accorded. It has been so interesting and enlightening. We hope to have you more frequently to discuss all that is a common interest between communication studies and economics, mainly human resources.
I'm so happy to participate at the interview, and thank you very much for your efforts and engagement.
Thank you. To wrap up, our interest in organizational communication stems from the fact that human capital is obviously central to the functioning and productivity of organizations. It is an asset and a competitive advantage that manifests through communicative and discursive aspects, through the interactions, procedures, processes, roles, and projects that human resources undertake within and across their respective organizations, raising awareness of the importance of that competence and mobilizing our academic and research community to devote more effort to develop the discipline of organizational communication from a global and local perspective is just timely and mandatory. That is all for today. This is Soumya Bouknana, PhD student from Applied Communication in Context Laboratory. Stay tuned for our e-conference taking place this Friday, June the 18th at 4 p.m. Morocco summertime, and with our keynote speaker, Dr. Linda Putnam, UC Santa Barbara, California. See you next.